welcome back. You're watching Overdrive. It's time now for us to answer your queries on Auto Selector. Sirish joins us as always. Hi Sirish, thanks for joining us on this show. Let me start with our first question. This comes into us from Joe's George. He says he currently owns a Maruti Swift. He's looking to buy himself a car. His budget is about 10 to 11 lakh rupees. He's trying to choose between the Honda City and the Mahindra Scorpio. He's a family of two. Most of his driving is done in the city. Which one of the two would you suggest? I know which one I'm going to pick, but what about you, Sirish?
Well, you haven't really specified what you want to do with your vehicle. Now see, if you want a car just for commuting in the city, the Honda City makes a lot of sense. It's an excellent vehicle, great ride quality, great handling, a very, very refined engine and powerful, good on fuel efficiency. The only thing is it's a petrol. So if you want a diesel, yes, then maybe the Scorpio would make more sense. But I really don't see for your kind of use how a Scorpio would be good, because a Scorpio you would use if you want to go out of town, do long distances, pack in a lot of people, a lot of luggage, maybe a 4x4 Scorpio if you want to do some off-roading. But for in-city commuting, it's just too big, the ride quality is not that great, it's a tough vehicle to drive because it is an SUV after all. It's not that easy to drive. So in most of the respects, the Scorpio doesn't really make too much sense. I would suggest go for the Honda City. You know, it's an obvious answer and it's an obvious choice, but that makes a lot more sense.
Okay, our next question comes into us from Pappu Hatela. He writes into us on our Facebook page. He says, I've heard that the Xylo doesn't come with anti-roll bars and side impact beams. Is this true? And is the ABS version any good? Can anti-roll bars be retrofitted and will they have any positive impact at all? A lot of technical stuff, Sirish. What do you suggest?
See, first thing, ABS version of the Xylo is definitely much better than the non-ABS version. If you have got a wet corner or a greasy corner, or there's gravel on the corner and you step on the brakes, in a non-ABS car, the brakes will lock up and you won't have any steering control. Whereas in an ABS-equipped Xylo, you'll still have braking and you'll still be able to control the car. You'll still be able to steer the car. So it's definitely a safety boon, a safety asset, and you should go for a car with ABS. Now, as for your other question, I don't think you're really sure about what an anti-roll bar actually does. An anti-roll bar is not like the roll cage of a rally car. So say if a car topples over, the passenger shell remains intact and it protects the passengers. That's what a roll cage does. Whereas an anti-roll bar, it limits the roll angle of a car. So it links the two suspension arms of a car. And so if you're going down a corner, the lean angle of the car, that anti-roll bar actually reduces that lean angle. Now, okay, anti-roll bars, obviously, it aid in handling, and the Xylo and the Scorpio also, they do have anti-roll bars. But the car inherently is not a vehicle that really goes around corners fast. Unlike, say, the Innova, which handles quite well, the Xylo, it doesn't handle all that well. It does roll a lot. Its strengths are its ride quality and its straight line stability. So if the road conditions are bad, it will still go through at speed. Whereas it doesn't really handle well around corners. And if you retrofit anti-roll bars, I don't see how much better the handling of the vehicle can be. So I don't think really you should go in for all that. It's just a lot of headache and not much reward. So settle for the ABS-equipped Xylo, and I think that's as good as it gets.
Well, on to our final question. This one is a biking one, and it comes into us from Raghu Patel from Dharwad. Sirish, he writes in saying he wants to buy himself the Pulsar 135 LS, but then Bajaj launched the new Discover 150, which is a cheaper option to the 135 LS. Now, he's confused on which bike he should buy. He lives in town, but travels about 100 kilometers every day to the outskirts of the city because that's where he works. His main priority, though, is a good ride. He has his heart set on a sporty bike. So what should he do?
Well, this is a superb question and it is extremely confusing. Even we haven't been able to make up our minds as to where the Discover 150 actually slots. It is really cheap, but it still has a 150cc engine, so it has all the power that is associated with it. So I don't know how I'm now. What do I recommend in that thing? The Pulsar 135, see, that's a modern bike, okay? It looks modern, it's got a high-tech engine, it's got excellent fuel efficiency, a very good bike to ride. The Discover, it looks like an old bike. It has a 150cc engine, but it's more a commuter-oriented bike. Step up from 125s, obviously, but I don't think it's really a 150 because it doesn't have all the sportiness that's inherent with 150s. You know, you buy 150s because you want a slightly more sporty bike, whereas the Discover 150 is definitely not sporty. So I really don't know what I should recommend. If I were you, I would buy the Pulsar 135 because that is a more modern bike and it's a technological showpiece. Whereas the Discover 150 is, I don't know where to slot it in. So Pulsar 135 would be my recommendation.